Oregon's adjusted to the Big Ten quite nicely. USC, though, they might be looking to move on from Lincoln Riley because they just can't get it done.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. You are locked on to Big Ten football, and thank you so much for making us your first listen or watch for today, especially on a holiday. Happy Thanksgiving to each and every one of you out there as we are looking across the Big Ten as we do weekly. My name is Zach Seyko, and I'm the host of Locked On Nittany Lions. He is Jacob Goins, the host of Locked On Hoosiers, as we're going to make our Week 14 picks, end of the regular season predictions here as it all comes to an end with Rivalry weekend. We're going to talk the latest with Penn State and Indiana. Greatest season in Indiana history. Penn State, could they hire internally with the interim head coach? We'll talk about the game, of course, Ohio State and Michigan, what it means for Indiana with the Big Ten championship on the horizon, the coaching rumors, though. USC, gonna miss a playoff again. Lincoln Riley not getting it done. How does that impact the coaching carousel if they were to make that move? And where could he land? Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Friendly reminder to let us know your thoughts down in the comments section. Again, thank you for spending your holiday with us. Jacob, Lincoln Riley, do we think this happens? Do we think that USC finally makes the move? His buyout, now it's not officially on the record since they're a private university, but the alleged amount is over $80 million, right? This isn't even in the ballpark of what James Franklin and Penn State were initially discussing with $50 million.
Yeah.
Does USC do it? Because there's a name that they might actually be really interested in if they move on from Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, if that's the number, right? If that's the official number is north of 80 million, I mean, that would set a record, right? That's more than what Jimbo Fisher got paid to walk away from Texas A&M, which was in the 70s, like 75 or something like that. So that's an absurd amount of money to pay somebody not to work. I still can't wrap my brain around this idea that we've just allowed coaches and their agents to work the universities this way. And I still think eventually, Zach, there has to be a major team, a major school, a major program that puts their foot down and says, no, we're not doing major contracts like this. We're not going to agree to ridiculous buyouts. We'll pay you on a yearly. We'll pay you off your success. But that's a conversation for a different time. It's so tough, right? If you're USC, because you look at it, and when you hired Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma, it was, man, what a great hire this is.
It was at the time.
I mean, he's coming back to where he belongs. He knows the area so well. He's offensively minded. It made sense for USC, and it just hasn't worked. Are they better than they were? Yeah, probably, but they're still not where they want to be. They're still not where they should be, in my opinion, based on the facilities, the NIL, and the money that they're paying the head coach. And so the question then becomes, with these big programs and big name coaches, everybody says, oh, well, if you fire the guy, who are you going to get that's better?
They got a name in mind. I know exactly where they would go.
I agree. And I think that name would be insane, but is it worth paying 60, 70, 80 million dollars for it? I've said for a long time that Lincoln Riley's not the guy out there. I think they should, to be quite honest with you. I think they should pull the plug, eat the money, move on. Maybe this will finally be the lesson that big programs learn to not agree to insane buyout amounts.
Will they do it, though? Will they do it? Here's the thing. If they know something, again, Lincoln Riley, we don't know what we don't know. With all these coaching rumors and the carousel, even with the message boards, it's like if the public has the information, then it's no good. Nobody was anticipating Lincoln Riley to Oklahoma, or from Oklahoma to USC once upon a time. Like that one really out of left field. And I think we are going to get some of those hires. All of this is strategic. Stuff is leaked to the media, to On3, to whomever else, if and when it's getting ready to happen. And it's leaked on the message boards as well.
Yeah.
So if USC is frustrated, I think the name that they would want is Kalen DeBoer. And if they know they're going to get Kalen DeBoer, then they're absolutely going to move on from Lincoln Riley because they're like, well, we're going to get the results in the end. So what is the money here? What is the, we'll negotiate the buyout. We'll pay it over time. And that doesn't mean that Lincoln Riley's not going to be unemployed. I think he could land at a few different spots. Let me name just a couple of, would LSU potentially be interested, right? I'm thinking SEC, or he's from Texas Tech originally. What if Joey McGuire is looking to potentially cash in? I know he's got a great setup at Texas Tech, but what if LSU comes calling, or Auburn or Florida, right? And they say, hey, Joey McGuire, look at how you were able to use the NIL and the transfer portal. Do that for us, and we'll give you a pay raise and everything else. Okay. And then that's a perfect setup for a homecoming for Lincoln Riley. In my mind, that's how, I'm not saying that's the likely destination. I would say LSU and Auburn for Lincoln Riley is probably the likely, so to speak, if USC were to move on. And then if USC does move on, they're going after Kalen DeBoer, and there's already rumored interest between the two sides, which would make a ton of sense because Kalen DeBoer had so much success on the West Coast with Washington. Imagine the kind of success, in theory, with Kalen DeBoer and USC.
Well, I mean, we've continued to hear, right, the rumblings out of Tuscaloosa that he is not overly happy there, talking about Kalen DeBoer. And we're talking about rivalry week here coming up on our next few segments. Look at what's happening in the state of Alabama. The Crimson Tide head to Auburn in a must-win game in the Iron Bowl to make it to the college football playoff. Dude, I'm telling you, if they lose that game, A, they're losing to their biggest rival, but B, they're missing the college football playoff. That's not okay for Alabama fans. They have the mindset like Ohio State fans do. They expect to be there every year, and they expect to compete for championships. And if you don't do that, even in year 2, they want you gone. They put your head on a stake and they run you out of town. And so that's a stressful place to be. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kalen DeBoer is looking elsewhere. And to get back to Lincoln Riley, because of this impacting the Big Ten, or if Kalen DeBoer comes to the Big Ten and Lincoln Riley leaves, I mean, talk about major programs in the SEC that could come after him. You said it, LSU, Auburn, Florida. All those people and teams are looking to win the press conference, make the splashy, sexy hire. Lincoln Riley's it. That name moves the needle for most people, the fans and the media. So don't be surprised if USC does move on, that Lincoln Riley finds himself in the Southeastern Conference. And then how crazy would it be for Kalen DeBoer to walk right back into the Big Ten?
It would work for him, especially what we've discussed here. And then Alabama would most likely get Lane Kiffin. I think that's pretty much the if he's why is he holding out on LSU? I know they're still in the middle of the season and everything, but it seems like he's looking to leave. Okay, he's flirting with Florida, he's flirting with LSU, but the job that he would want above all else is Alabama, and Alabama would want him too. So that's another type of homecoming, which means Ole Miss gets into the mix, and then LSU and Florida got to pivot if they don't get their preferred guy, even whether or not Lincoln Riley comes onto the market. Well, I guess that's how that's the domino effect, right? That's how that would happen. So Riley goes onto the market, Kiffin is missed, but it's ultimately where would Riley end up? That's probably what LSU would do, and then Florida's got to scramble, Texas Tech. So just creates a crazy coaching carousel, which Penn State is still involved in. We'll talk about that in the next segment. We got to get to the game briefly here because we'll make our prediction later with our Week 14 picks. But the implications, Michigan can still get back into the Big Ten championship with a victory here.
Yeah, they can. It's fascinating to look at what happens with these different scenarios in the Big Ten championship game. For Indiana, it's as simple as win and you're in. If you beat Purdue tomorrow night in West Lafayette on the road on Black Friday, you're into the Big Ten championship game. It then comes down to, okay, who do you play? Who is going to be your opponent? It's as simple as if Ohio State wins the game against Michigan for the first time in 4 years, they are in. And it's Ohio State at 1 and Indiana at 2, which is what most people have predicted. The Oregon-Washington game at that point doesn't have any implications. If Michigan were to beat Ohio State, okay, if Indiana beats Purdue, Michigan were to beat Ohio State for the 5th time in a row, and Oregon takes down Washington and Seattle, it's the Ducks who actually jump Ohio State and get to the Big Ten championship game. Now, it gets even more fascinating and more interesting. Again, if Indiana beats Purdue and Michigan beats Ohio State and Washington pulls off the upset against Oregon, here come the Michigan Wolverines. After all of this season, the Michigan Wolverines would be playing in the Big Ten championship game. Then the Oregon Ducks are concerned about making the college football playoff. Who knows what they do with Ohio State? And Michigan has a chance to play themselves into the college football playoff. And so it is insane to see how all of this could play out. If Indiana loses to Purdue, I don't think there's a world where they get to play in the Big Ten championship game. I think that's what happens there, even given all the other games and things like that. So for Indiana, I've said it all week. Just beat Purdue. Don't mess around. They're winless in the Big Ten. They're not a good football team. I don't care that it's on the road at night. Just go beat Purdue and go play the Big Ten championship game.
Indiana's a 4-touchdown favorite, so
yeah.
I wouldn't be sweating that one in the slightest, but you never know. Crazy things happen here at the end of the regular season with rivalry weekend. So we got plenty of games to pick from later on in the show still to come. Penn State's coaching search. Indiana in the middle of potentially its best season in program history. Is Penn State really going to promote the interim head coach? We'll talk about that next here on this Locked On Crossover. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot and an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's right, $300 in bonus bets. And that can be used on anything: NBA basketball, NFL football, college football, with lines available for this weekend. Penn State and Indiana, respectively. The Nittany Lions are 13.5-point favorites, minus 580 on the money line, plus 420 if you're thinking Rutgers for the upset. Total is set at 56.5. Then for Indiana on the road at Purdue, they're a heavy favorite, 28.5 points on the spread, minus 10,000 on the money line, plus 2,400 if you're thinking Purdue for the full-on upset here. The total is set at 54.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. And remember, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
We're going to talk about Indiana trying to cap off the greatest regular season that they've ever had with Purdue coming up on Friday night. But Seyko, we got to get the latest on the Penn State coaching search, because we've heard all the big names. We've heard Drinkwitz. We've heard DeBoer. We've heard, everybody out there. But yet Terry Smith might just be the guy after he rattles off a couple of wins, or maybe it's somebody else from the inside. What can you tell us of what's going on up there in Happy Valley?
The latest just kind of gets, it's truly a process of elimination. Hey, Penn State did swing for the fences. They tried to, and I guess technically nothing's finalized with Kalen DeBoer at this time or Marcus Freeman. But the understanding is that, okay, Mike Elko signed his extension. Urban Meyer's not going to come out of retirement. You tried with Marcus Freeman just to say, hey, would you consider it? And I guess he technically hasn't said no, but the understanding, why would he leave Notre Dame where he has such a great setup? Okay. So then you get back to, okay, what do you want to do here? I've seen people, hey, Locked On You. We're talking about USC. Locked On USC host Mark Polkin tried to insinuate that maybe he knows something about Penn State going back to Matt Rule and saying, we missed all our coaching candidates. You got an extension. We can still outbid the extension. I don't buy that, especially with the way that Penn State absolutely annihilated Nebraska. So you're better off going with Terry Smith in that instance. I think that would be a really weird decision to circle back to Matt Rule, even in a desperate situation. So Penn State, everything that I've heard, off the record says that Terry Smith is getting an interview as more of a formality than anything else.
Okay.
And maybe the people, and maybe Pat Kraft is just, he's not trying to tip his hand here. Terry Smith has earned the right to be interviewed, to be a serious contender for the job. And I've already laid out my case as to why Terry Smith is not a terrible hire. This isn't the interim head coach is just playing inspired football type of thing. The players are rallying around him. That is an element. But I also saw the most energy from the fans in a long time. Even when Penn State was succeeding, it wasn't that kind of energy. It wasn't as infectious. Terry Smith has an appreciation for Penn State. He played there. He graduated from there. I think that's a component of it too. I'm not entirely sure that Penn State needs an outsider to lead them. If you now, does Terry Smith have the experience? Well, he's been the associate head coach. He's been around it enough, and now he's been the interim to where it's all on him. It would be different if I wouldn't sit here today, Jacob, if Penn State won a couple of close games and it's like, okay, you made some progress, right? But the team is fully bought in. Like everybody's bought in, aside from some players that are transferring out. The core of the team is bought in. They're saying hire Terry Smith. Okay. That's interesting that how this team has responded despite all the adversity and when you have nothing to play for. That's what's telling. Somebody that knows the ins and outs of the university, that has an appreciation, that doesn't looks at this like the best thing ever, as opposed to gotta go to work, gotta get a paycheck, gotta get a job. He wants to be the head coach. Okay. And I think those kinds of things matter in the scheme of things. So he's not a terrible option. Is he the best overall? No, he's not. I can sit there and say that, but I think he has elements that give Penn State leverage and upside that other candidates just don't. So it's really down to Bob Chesney of James Madison at this point. I think Penn State, since all of their other big swings they've struck out on all of their other big swings, they're going to end up going with Bob Chesney, which is not a bad option, just limited experience, but he's been a head coach for a while. At that point, I like Bob Chesney, but I'd go with Terry Smith and try to build the same, because you're going to have to build a foundation around Bob Chesney. So why not do it with somebody that doesn't he's been the associate head coach. You could say that he has more experience than Bob Chesney because he's been the number 2 guy at Penn State for so long.
Yeah. And I think both options are interesting there. With Chesney, I can speak from experience. Hiring a James Madison head coach typically
does it work?
Well, it works out well. Yeah, it's pretty good. I'll say it's pretty cool. With Terry Smith, though, would it be, or could it be, I guess, a situation where Penn State promotes him or takes the interim tag off, makes him the head coach, and almost makes him, like we've started to talk about in college football, the CEO type of guy, where you keep a guy like Jim Knowles on the defensive side, you go get an offensive genius or guru or whatever word people want to use on the offensive side, let the coordinators truly run the ship and him be the head guy, be the dude for interviews, be the recruiter, be the speaker at events and things like that. Could that be the situation for Terry Smith if they take the interim tag off of him?
I would rather see them create a CEO board, because I think he's a better football X's and O's coach than he would. So you need to build a situation where he has a set of advisors, a general manager, multiple people that have it. Like, hey, let's construct the roster this way. Let's work with, this, because I think his on the field coaching, he said it best. At some point, you just need a leader of men. You just need a football coach. Why does Penn State need a CEO that is also the acting head football coach? That's why Penn State could never take the next step forward, because James Franklin was that. It always defaulted to him being a CEO more than a head football coach. I want Penn State to have a head football coach, whether that, and Bob Chesney, I think, checks that box. But Terry Smith, again, has the appreciation for the university. Chesney is from Pennsylvania. He's a Coal Belt Pennsylvania guy. So there is going to be the appreciation for it, but it's different when you're a grad and an alum. Look, the way that Penn State's been able to turn its season around, this isn't just blindly hire Terry Smith because he won a couple of games. It's the substantial progress where the offense looks completely different. The defense looks completely different. Guys are bought in. And that's part of the condition here. If Terry Smith, the alleged idea is that, this roster won't have a complete makeover if Terry Smith is promoted, that you will be able to keep a lot of talented players here who are future NFL prospects. if that's the case, I wouldn't be saying this if Terry Smith wasn't, oh, this team's still going to fall apart. This program's going to be in shambles one way or another. If you don't have to go through the reset, then Terry Smith very well may be the best option under the circumstances, and build that foundation around him as opposed to somebody else.
Yeah, and so much of that, it's stressful, man. Coaching searches are stressful. Believe me, we went through it a couple of years ago at Indiana, and
yeah, but you
course,
had more to gain from it. You know, Tom Allen 2-10, 3-9.
Yeah.
James Franklin was 10-2, and being at least he was at the dance. Indiana was far from it. So that's
right.
But look where we're talking about this as potentially the best season in Indiana program history.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I was going to say is if you get the right guy, it can lead to greatness. Clearly, look at some of these programs across college football. Look at Dan Lanning at Oregon. Look at, I mean, you could argue Ryan Day at Ohio State since he finally broke through. Look at Indiana with Kurt Signetti. I mean, it can work out. And yeah, Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame's another example. Penn State, when they find the right guy, Florida's the same way. LSU's the same way. Auburn's the same way. USC, if it's not Lincoln Riley, like those are programs that if they find the right guy in today's era of college football, it's going to be really dangerous. And yeah, Indiana's on the verge of its greatest season in program history. All you got to do is beat Purdue on Friday night and you cap off an undefeated regular season. Indiana doesn't do that. Okay. That doesn't happen in Bloomington on the football field. And it's magical to see. It's amazing. Has it been the prettiest of seasons? No, but you've had some incredible wins. And the fact that you have yet to lose up to this point and have a chance to cap that off tomorrow night against Purdue on the road against your biggest rival, man, what more could you ask for? And then you go play in your first ever Big Ten championship game and you go to the college football playoff where you're going to be the second or third betting favorite to win it all. Like that's what can happen when you find the right guy. Indiana has theirs. They've secured theirs. Got to see if Penn State can get that dude in there, because if they do, man, you know this and your fans know this. Penn State, they're not a sleeping giant. They're an awaiting giant. They're just standing off at the side and waiting for the right guy to show up, waiting for their Prince Charming to walk in. And as soon as he does, Penn State's going to take off and be the juggernaut that everybody's been afraid of for so long.
I really do want somebody that appreciates the university, because I think that is a key. You know, it's not everybody thinks that every program is a one size fits all. Like Penn State is a niche program. So James Franklin was an ambassador that got Penn State back to this point, and that's what he's going to be for Virginia Tech, which is absolutely what they need. Yeah. But that's why I think Terry Smith, okay, for them to take that next step, I don't think Penn State needs guidance from somebody on the outside. I don't think they need an ambassador anymore. I think they need a person that understands every element of Penn State and appreciates it, enjoys it. Because I know that Franklin, there were definitely, that's why the fan base was so ravenous. James Franklin wasn't necessarily a Penn State community guy. Yeah. Terry Smith is a Penn State celebrity and he likes it. He wants that. So we'll see how it all unfolds. I'm for Terry Smith being hired and trying this for the next 3 years potentially. But a lot of that is conditional. You got to retain Jim Knowles. Andy Kotelnicki's not as bad of a guy anymore. Hey, look at offense is a machine right now with James Franklin being gone. I find that very, very interesting. But you also have to keep a majority of this roster and this coaching staff intact. If that's not the case, then you got to go in a different direction. So as we continue, week 14 picks, rivalry weekend is here. We're going to start with the game, and then we're going to get into the Black Friday games where Indiana get to the Big Ten championship. Will they do it? That's coming up next here on this Locked On Crossover. And this episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. The holidays always feel a little easier when you already know the perfect gift, and Omaha Steaks makes it almost too simple. Whether you're treating yourself this season or sending something memorable to family and friends, Omaha Steaks delivers handcrafted perfection right to your door. And this week is the best time to jump in because their cyber sale is here. The deals, they're huge. And I've received Omaha Steaks as a gift before, and I'll tell you what, I really look forward to that gift every holiday season. It's the quality. The quality is exactly what you hope for. Incredibly tender steaks, rich flavor, and meals that make hosting or weeknight cooking easier. And the variety, it's underrated. You get steaks, burgers, comfort meals, sides, desserts. It's one of those gifts that truly fits anyone. Honestly, it's the kind of gift that brings people together. Save big on unforgettable gifts with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide and an extra 20% off select favorites during their cyber sale and an additional $35 off when you use promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That is promo code COLLEGE over at omahasteaks.com. Promo code COLLEGE. Terms apply. See site for details. We start with the game as we should, and then we'll go to Black Friday and then all of the other games. Ohio State is on the road at Michigan. The same thing that I said a year ago, like, oh, they're due, right? This team's so much better than Michigan. Surely they win. It's in Columbus. They've lost 3 in a row. So all of that's out the window. Okay. Yeah. 10.5 points. I've seen that the line's already moving. It's gone from 11.5 to the key number of 9.5 to just okay. So that is where the line's going to stay locked in. I mean, Michigan, Sharon Moore, does Ryan Day really feel the pressure in this moment? I think he does. And that can't necessarily be quantified because it's more than just the X's and O's. Like, yeah, Bryce Underwood and this team don't exactly match up very well against Ohio State, but that doesn't matter. You can't go off of the analytics. You can't go off of what's on paper there. There is a lot of emotion. There is a lot of pressure that I think Ryan Day feels in this game. I would like to think that Ohio State is just so much better that they're still going to win it at the end of the day, but Michigan is going to make this close.
Yeah, they will because of their defense. I mean, that's what has kept them in every game that they've won this season, yes, but in the last 4 against Ohio State. And with this being in the Big House, with the temperature being below freezing in this game is what they're predicting, with a major cold front moving through the Midwest. I mean, it is going to be a classic Ohio State-Michigan matchup. Big noon kickoff, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. And look, the pressure on Ohio State is, with Ryan Day cannot beating Michigan, right? He hasn't done it and trying to do so right now in the first time in 4 or 5 years. Michigan, on the other hand, yes, they're looking to beat Ohio State. They're also looking to keep their season alive. I already told you they have an outside shot to make it to the Big Ten championship game, which means they have an outside shot to make it to the college football playoff and be the 3rd or 4th representative from the Big Ten. So I expect Michigan to show up and play. You said it, Ohio State favored by 9.5. The total for this game is only 44.5. That tells me they expect Ohio State to win, and they expect Ohio State to dominate on the defensive side. I'll take the Buckeyes to win, but Michigan's got to cover a 9.5 point spread, dude. I'm telling you, they are going to keep it close. Ohio State's going to have to squeak it out in their closest game of the year.
In a game that, this is a cold game where running and defense, let me say this, Ohio State's ground game is not that good. Bo Jackson is better. They're getting better, but they also haven't been tested by a stout defense overall since Texas. Yeah. I mean, this is a game. This is a game that is going to be very close. I give Michigan a strong chance for an upset here. I think it's going to come down to a field goal. I think this one will be maybe something like 20-17, because simply put, Michigan can run the football. Ohio State cannot as well, and they haven't faced a defense of the caliber. It's also in Ann Arbor. I give Michigan a strong chance. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, they're supposed to be back, but they're also injured too, right? So now I'm starting to think, does Michigan? I got to think Ohio State breaks it at this point, but there is serious. Take Michigan to cover. Take Michigan to cover in this game.
Yep, that's where I'm at.
For sure. This is a field goal game one way or another. Even if you like Michigan to win, I will take Ohio State to actually win, but Michigan almost all but guaranteed to cover in my mind. All right, we get to the first Black Friday game. We're going to go a little quickly through these to talk about our respective teams. Iowa and Nebraska, noon Eastern time kickoff on Black Friday. Another chilly game where Iowa's give or take a touchdown favorite. Nebraska, I don't know what they have. I watched that team in person. I know that is not a good team, and Penn State made a statement. Iowa, again, can run the football. Nebraska can't stop the run. Give me Iowa. And I know it's a rivalry game, but give me Iowa comfortably here because simply that they can run and Nebraska can't stop it.
Yeah, TJ Lateef in his first start last week just didn't look good. I mean, threw the ball, 36, 37 times.
He looked good under the circumstances, right? I can attest that that's a good ball player.
Yeah, he is. There's just not a ton around him, and that team is a show. And so, yeah, I think Iowa just ground and pounds, and it's going to be cold. I don't know what the crowd's going to be like in Lincoln. So, yeah, give me Iowa to win. And I don't know. Them winning by a touchdown seems like a lot, but I think they will. Give me Iowa to win and cover.
At least 10. I think this can get into double digits for
Sure.
Iowa on the deficit. Maybe something like, 24-10, something like that.
Yeah.
Indiana and Purdue. Okay, so a lot on the line for Indiana, but they are 4-touchdown favorites as it stands. Purdue's just going to try to be a bull in the china shop, I suppose. I would anticipate points because, like I said, Purdue's going to try some trickery. They're going to try to air it out. They're going to play quick. I feel like they're always going to be playing catch up, though. So how do you see it, Jacob, from Indiana's point of view?
Yeah, I mean, Purdue literally has nothing to lose, right? I mean,
Mhm.
they're going up against their rival. This is the best Indiana team that's ever walked into West Lafayette. So they'll have that going for them. It's at night.
Yep.
It's on Black Friday, the first time ever that this game has been played on Black Friday. And so all of that goes towards Purdue. They're looking for the first Big Ten win. They've had some close calls this year, right? The Michigan game was close. Rutgers was close. Minnesota was close, but that doesn't get you a whole lot. Close only counts in a couple of things, right? And college football is not one of them. And so I'm with you. I think Purdue can get some points. Indiana's had some injuries on the defensive side of the football, some miscommunications in the secondary, and Purdue has big play potential. So I expect them to put up, 17, 20 points here, but I expect Indiana to absolutely have a field day on that defense. So I like Indiana to win. 28 points is a ton in a rivalry game. I don't care that you're talking about the number 2 team in the country versus a winless team in the Big Ten. I'll take Indiana to win. I like a 56-20 type of game, maybe 56-24, something like that. Indiana wins, and they'll win comfortably on Friday night against Purdue.
Indiana also has to be conscious of the Big Ten championship. So that spread, a win's a win. You win by 14, you win by 28. What does it matter as long as you get to the Big Ten championship? Give me Purdue to cover simply because of that.
Yep.
Outside of Ohio State and Michigan, there are no other noon games from the Big Ten on that Saturday. So all eyes are supposed to be on Ohio State and Michigan. Not surprised by that. Good on Fox, right? So we'll pick back up with one of the 3:30 games, Penn State at Rutgers. Penn State is peaking. Terry Smith has this group fighting just for the sake of fighting. There's more records to be broken. It's a 13-point spread. It initially opened up around 10, so we've seen a lot of steam here for the Nittany Lions. Give me the Nittany Lions because they're starting to they're still ranked in the top 20 according to the analytics as a 5-6 team. It's not just about bowl eligibility. I've never seen this team so scrappy. Really, they are scrappy. They were getting into a bunch of scrums with Nebraska. I'm not encouraging that against Rutgers. I don't think you need to do that. But I'm just seeing guys that want to fight for the sake of fighting, meaning that they want to give it their all no matter the circumstances. Give me Penn State because they're simply more talented. They're motivated. Coaching staff is better all across the board. Rutgers will put up some points. They can move the football. They got good coaches on the other side. So I will take Penn State to cover, and I will take the over as well.
Yeah, I'll keep it quick here. You said it nicely there. Rutgers has a good offense until they play a good defense, right? They just haven't been able to put up points against the Oregons, the Illinois, the Ohio States of the world, and Penn State's defense is in that category too. Give me Penn State to win, and give me Penn State to win big on the road at Rutgers.
All right, Oregon and Washington. Are we thinking something crazy here? Because I can't shake the feeling. This is a feeling. This is a gut feeling that Washington at a minimum covers. I just don't think Oregon's going to be in an interesting spot where they got to go toe to toe with a high flying offense and Washington, they've been put down by Oregon quite a ton over the past decade plus, right? We hear it from Spencer and Roman that it's truly a little brother situation there. Washington has a chance to make a statement here. I think Oregon still gets it done because they're the more comprehensive team, but Washington, this is the best they've been all season, right? All those young players are finally starting to come into their own. They have some injuries that I don't know about. Okay, we'll have to hear from Roman, but give me Washington to at least cover, and that's going to be a game with a lot of points because Washington doesn't have anything to lose except pride.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And look, this Washington team has gotten better down the stretch, but man, that offense has been disappointing to me in the games that truly matter, right? The big games. Ohio State, they got shut down. They couldn't even do it against Wisconsin, right? I mean, it has disappointed in the games that truly matter, but they will give it everything they have against the Oregon Ducks. But I do think there's a world where Oregon could be on the outside looking in if they lose a game like this. They're not represented in the Big Ten championship game. As crazy as as that sounds, I think there's a world where that could happen. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think it could. And that's why Dan Lanning will have this team ready to go. And when he gets his team fired up and motivated, they just don't lose football games all that often. So I'm not betting against Dan Lanning. He's one of the best in the country for a reason. Give me Oregon to win, but they are going to have to squeak this thing out. I like Washington to cover a 6.5 point spread too, but Oregon escapes.
Washington covers, and I like that over. Wisconsin and Minnesota, far for the antithesis of the game we just talked about there. This total is set at 37.5, but we pointed out how Wisconsin, they know the certainty with Luke Fickell, and they seem to be in a much better spot. I haven't been a fan of this Minnesota PJ Fleck team, so give me Wisconsin to win comfortably, maybe even by double digits here.
This is for our buddy Ryan Herrings at Locked On Wisconsin, Locked On Badgers. Give me Wisconsin to get this win, get their 5th of the year and end the season on a high note.
Michigan State's a field goal give or take favorite over Maryland. Jonathan Smith might be on his way out at Michigan State. I would like to think Maryland would win here just because they have some certainty for the future with Mike Locksley being locked up for another season and Michigan State potentially wanting to fire Jonathan Smith for maybe Brian Kelly. Who knows? Give me Maryland.
Jeez. I mean, I'm counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 game losing streak for Michigan State after starting the season 3-0. Oh, that's so disgusting. I know that it's at home, but I'll take Maryland, even though Michigan State is favored, but I don't feel good either way.
USC, UCLA, similar situation. Are we weighing this with the fact that Lincoln Riley could be on his way out? If that's the case, Jerry Neuheisel and company, look, they're really good in that bull in the China shop type of role. I don't think UCLA will win, but they might prioritize this rivalry a little more than USC does, especially since their season is, it's over. I don't know how I don't think they can even get into the Big Ten championship if even all the crazy stuff happens. So UCLA or USC will simply win because of talent, but UCLA will definitely cover there.
Yep, I ditto that 100%. USC will give up in this game. They'll win because of talent alone, but yeah, UCLA will play a really good game here, and it won't be enough, but it'll be closer than 21 points for sure.
7.5 spread as we wrap up. 7:30 kickoff at night. Northwestern at Illinois. Illinois is the favorite. I like Northwestern in this spot to definitely cover and maybe even upset. I have not been impressed with what Illinois has at this, but they've fallen apart.
Yeah, give me Northwestern on the upset. Sorry, Sonny. I think Northwestern is just a solid football team, man. And Illinois is in that same situation, right? They can go 8-4. Okay, cool. But Northwestern can go 7-5, get a decent bowl game, and that's what they want there in Chicago. So, yeah, give me Northwestern to go on the road to Champaign to pull off the upset.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank you so much for checking out this Locked On crossover to look across the Big Ten Conference. My name is Zach Seyko, your host of Locked On Nittany Lions. He is Jacob Goins, your expert for all things Indiana Hoosiers. Make sure you subscribe to both of our respective YouTube channels and wherever you get your podcasts for daily conversations around Penn State and Indiana. Eat a bunch of turkey, spend time with friends and family, enjoy your holiday. To all of you out there, Jacob, especially you, thanks for the time as every single week that we get to do this, and can't wait to do it again next week as we'll recap these games and preview the Big Ten championship, which Indiana should be in. So happy Thanksgiving, man. Appreciate you.
Yep. Same to you, man. Thankful for you. Thankful for our fans. Thankful for Locked On. And man, we have the greatest job in the world. So thank you to everybody who makes this possible.